So I've been watching marathon reaction videos ever since the alpha was released last week, and I've watched hours of Dr. Lupo and others in their live streams as well. I mean, I talked with a mod in our Discord, Hammercrasher32, who also got an alpha code, and he gave me some raw feedback as well. The most impactful feedback, though, was from a longtime streamer who's considered, I think he's considered one of the OG Battle Royale and extraction shooter guys out there, and that's Shroud. He had some thoughts on the Marathon Alpha gameplay. He did get a code, and he did play it. And it kind of crystallized what Marathon is all about. And before you chime in and say it's only an alpha, I get it. But he mentioned how many developers out there, try to replicate the Escape from Tarkov shooter. They try to round out all the rough edges and the friction that's present in the Tarkov game. And what struck me was when he explained why Tarkov is so popular and has the staying power it does. That is because the game is so hardcore. There's no tutorial. There's nothing explained. You just have to jump in and learn from trial and error. And he mentioned that small items like the pack of cigarettes, I have no clue what they're used for, but they have a special use in the game, but only until you stumble into what that is, there's no help. In his opinion, this is the hook that he thinks keeps players coming back to the Tarkov game. The extreme difficulty, the hardcore principles of the game, and just learning how to get better playing it. What he said next, though, about Marathon made sense to me. He says that Bungie has made an extraction shooter aimed at the more general audience, and also the fact that it's available on console, whereas Tarkov is not. It's much simpler form of extraction shooter. There aren't 100 different types of ammo. There's no confusion where the weapon attachments are used. It's really eliminated all the friction, so to speak, of learning a very cumbersome game. So my question tonight is, if Bungie has indeed made a more casual extraction shooter game, what's the hook that's going to keep players coming back? This is what just keeps hounding me when I was trying to think about how I would play this game. When I watched the Marathon Alpha live streams, I didn't really get that long-term objective. I mean, why are they playing? What are they trying to achieve? What's the end game? In other words, what keeps us coming back to play it again and again? Now, I really want Marathon to be my side PvP game. I'm really worried that if it fails and Sony is not happy, will this affect the future Bungie games out there? And how will it affect Destiny 2's future? I know people have been arguing about this, but this is really a concern I've had. I know that Destiny 2 is the only game that brings income into Bungie at the moment. And my fear is that Sony will cut bait and tear the studio apart and spread all that human talent across its other studios. That was my first thought when I found out that Sony took over the management of Bungie. Remember that mess before the year? And even if Sony keeps Destiny 2 going, how much of the studio will be used to produce future content for the game? I don't know. This has kind of been bugging me with all the Marathon talk lately. And I know people are probably tired of us talking about Marathon, but this is the big thing right now with Bungie. So, and I'm going to mention something here, Kingsley, and just, I know you're going to want to chime in, but please let me get through it, because it's an idea I got at bowling on Monday night. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's a younger kid. He's actually one of my buddy's sons that plays on our team. And I just was talking with him, and I said, listen, have you seen any gameplay from the Marathon extraction shooter they got to come out? The alpha, have you seen any coverage or gameplay on it? And he actually played Tarkov, and he's played other hardcore shooters out there for years. And I was really curious, what his take was on it, what he actually thought about it, because he comes from a different part of gaming that I do. What he told me, though, was that he just played Tarkov with his friends against bots. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I'm confused here. How are you able to just play against bots and not run into any other teams, since it's a PvP game, right? Apparently, if you own the deluxe version of Tarkov, it's $200, by the way, I looked. If you own the deluxe version of Tarkov, you have the option to play all the content and avoid the other players. So that gave me an idea. And I know you know where I'm going with this, but just hear me out. What if Marathon is going to lean into a casual extraction shooter game. What if Marathon had a PvE only mode where you could play against bots only and still collect and upgrade your loot, increase your stamina and your carrying capacity, either solo or with friends? The bots, of course, wouldn't be a pushover, and they would pursue you like they are now in the alpha. They're very aggressive and they're very hard to kill. And I actually asked my teammate who plays Tarkov PvE only if the bots ever wiped his entire team, and he said, yeah, it happens all the time. So what if Bungie could create a bot-only environment where players could pursue those contracts and upgrade their loot, but more importantly, learn to play the game and be competitive against really tough AI bots? Now here's the twist, and I think this is the hook that could really keep players playing Marathon. What if Bungie made a separate ranked playlist like Halo did back in the day? Man, I remember grinding games out in Halo, the brief amount of time that I did play it. And I can't remember what rank I was. I was way down there because it was new to me. But it was challenging to play games and hope that I could move up into the next rank above. And man, Halo, if you remember, had tons of ranks, man. They had tons of ranks. There's a whole page of different ranked playlists in that game. And if you think about it, it's exactly the same relationship that PvP has in Destiny 2. If you think about it, we play PvE parts of the game to get powerful weapons and armor, and then use it to jump into the Crucible and see how it compares. If it's one of the reasons I keep playing so many, that's one of the reasons I keep so many weapons in my vault. It's that magic sauce that Bungie has perfected over nearly a decade of playing this game. And of course, I realize there's PvE only players out there who don't agree with me here, but there's a lot of PvP players in Destiny that do this exact thing. And I really think if things are going south for the release of Marathon come September, this change could turn the game around. And this big change has been done before. I remember when Fortnite was an average, boring, PvE only zombie game where you built walls to keep them out. But when they pivoted to the Battle Royale, it totally changed the studio's future. Now, I'm not saying this will work in Bungie's case, and hell, maybe the way it is now will be a hit, and I'm just missing something here. But the main thing that I've been hearing out there is that all the time collecting and improving your gear, you could lose it in one fell swoop. That could be really disheartening, especially for us hoarders in Destiny 2.
That's what we should already know. That's what the extraction game is.
And I know it's a different game. I get it. I know it's a different game. But as a vault,
don't be upset going into it like that because they told us that's how.
I understand, and they're gonna wipe the seasons. I get it. So even if you get the new hotness, it's gonna be gone once the next season pops around. I know that, but I just know that would bug me, and I know I've heard that from a lot of people who played this game that it would really bug them. And if it happens so many times, how many times would they come back to play? But what if you could
should never buy that game in the first place? Then
I understand. Again, I understand that, but I'm just saying,
you need to know going into it. You need to know.
I get it.
If anyone gets upset by that and they bought the game,
I know.
Then I blame them 1,000%. They didn't do the research,
But as we're talking about Borderlands 4 coming up, it brought up an idea that Borderlands 2 had in it. What if you could have a locker in the PvE version where you could collect those weapons and builds and then roll the dice and let's go into the ranked playlist with my best loadout or this loadout I want to try, just like Crucible and Destiny, and have it stored in a small locker. Of course, it's not going to be like our vaults. It would be a small, limited locker, and I think Borderlands 2 had them in like several areas of the map where you could store stuff. It was a pain because I never remembered where I put everything. I'd lose half my vault, half my stuff I stored. But Borderlands, if you say you got a really kick-ass weapon from a boss you killed, but it was higher level than where you were right now, I would just put it into a locker. And when I finally got to that level, I'm sure you did this too. When you finally got that level, you're like, oh, I can go get that level 27 weapon now, So you could hold it if you get a really good drop. But this competition and striving to increase your rank, I think would be the hook that Marathon seems to be missing right now. Paul Tassi had an article about the alpha player counts were dwindling. Even though they're handing out more codes, people are playing the game and the numbers are still dwindling after over a week of playing the alpha. I don't know about you, but that's not a good sign. I remember when I played the beta, I played it every day until they kicked the servers off and I was kicked from the game. That's the hook that we need to have in Marathon. And I realize it's an alpha, you can't go by that. Let's see how it does in a beta. I've heard that people tell me that. Well, let's just wait to see what the open beta has. Let's see what the numbers do then, because alpha, face it, it's a select few people that are in our community and other communities, but mainly it's streamers and content creators that have been playing this game. I mean, that's smart for Bungie, because if I watch a creator play this and they're having a good time, I'm going to get excited and want to play it. I really want Marathon to get a win here, because it will only hurt Bungie if it's a flop, and possibly hurt the studios that develop Destiny 2. Sony could cut its losses and just break up the studio for the talent to be used in other studios. Like I said, I feared this when they took over the management of Bungie. But if you remember Concord, what happened at Concord? I think Firewalk Studios got shut down briefly after the game was canceled. And I think all the employees either got fired or they got spread out to other projects in the Sony studios. And there's a lot of them out there. I really don't want this to happen to Bungie. And I know I'm the Destiny shill here. I'm the Bungie shill, but it would all but erase any hope of a Destiny game down the road if the studio should fall apart and not come back together to make future content. I don't know. That's what's been on my mind this week, Kingsley. Thank you for letting me get it out, but I'm really eager to hear your opinion on this. What do you think, man?
Boy, you throw so much shit at the wall. That was 5 separate points, not just 1 point.
Thank you for biting your tongue.
I always have to take notes.
Thank you for biting your tongue. Notes
because you're like, I have a topic of the week. No, that was literally 5 topics of the week, and I took notes on all of them.
This is
just so I wouldn't forget anything.
This is the beauty of the show, because I'll get these thoughts in my head. And while I'm working during the day in the hot sun and just have my earbuds on listening to podcasts or something, I'll just keep thinking about this and start trying to put things together and how I think they could turn things around. Because I don't know about you, but it's very mixed, if not looking a little bad for Marathon. And like I said, I don't like to poo-poo Marathon before it even becomes a game, but I'm sure they're getting some feedback that they need to listen to. And I'm just saying, this would emulate a game like the Crucible and Destiny, and it would make me want to play. It would give me a reason to play the game over and over again, is to gather up stuff. And I know it's not the same game, but it would give you some feel like that, where you can then put your gear together, put your best gear on. You've played all the characters, you know how all they work, you know how everything works, you know the maps because you played them over and over again, and then roll the dice and go out there and play the ranked playlist. And then you can have all kinds of emblems and special gear for hitting a certain rank in the playlist. I don't know. This just stuff that goes on in my head.
Okay.
I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
On the extraction shooter thing, the biggest overall point, and don't worry, I'll get to all of your 5 different topics, but the biggest thing is they just should not have made an extraction shooter in the first place. It's the simplest answer. A lot of times people will look for conspiracy theories or this or that or this or that, but it was kind of stupid, especially this late in the game, them make an extraction shooter. We also just heard news yesterday or the day before.
Yes.
Titanfall 3 had a new extraction shooter coming out that just got canceled, and they fired 300 employees.
Wow, I did not hear that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So just to keep things really simple on the highest level, forget this or that or this or that. I still think they should have never made this game.
And keep in mind too, Kingsley, they were starting this game in 2018 before this podcast was even a thing, during Destiny 2 when it first came out.
But at some point, like what Titanfall just did, you gotta so.
I hear you, man.
But also, now, should I go to this point next? Maybe I will. Just because this project got canceled doesn't mean there's not going to be other Titanfall PvE things. And like I said in a previous episode, if Marathon does good or bad, it does not have to affect Destiny. I know everyone will want to use that as an excuse, but the funny thing is it could go either way. And people will use that as an excuse. What if Marathon does really good and Destiny's still not doing good?
It could happen.
They could still cancel Destiny, even with Marathon doing good.
It's true.
So in my opinion, it's not going to have as much of an effect as people think it will. Destiny will only get canceled if Marathon doesn't do good and Destiny doesn't do good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if Marathon doesn't do good, it's not like they have to shut down the whole studio. They can just fire more employees all on the Marathon side. You know what I mean? Destiny is status quo with the employees that they have.
Right.
They probably wouldn't even fire all of them. They would probably actually, it might even help Destiny some. A
Maybe.
few would come over, I'm sure.
Maybe.
You know?
Yeah.
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 Anyways, that is just impossible to know unless they tell us why. It's always just going to be speculation, because if you see my point, people, no matter if Marathon does good or bad, people can use that as an excuse if Destiny doesn't do good or bad.
And the devs did speak up and did say that they might have a training mode. Cause Call of Duty has a training mode. I think Apex has a training mode, and I think even Battlefield even had a training mode where you played against bots. That's all I'm asking here, Tajo. I'm not talking about changing the game. The base rank server would be the PvP game. I'm just talking about a game type where you didn't have to go and try to get contracts to get better loot or upgrade certain things like your backpack size and stuff, and only to get flattened by someone who's played the game all weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was going to get to that point too.
Okay, go ahead.
I was trying to stay organized here.
Sorry, I'm bouncing all over.
Yeah. So first, I'm very, very strong on my opinion still that at least within the last today to 3 years ago, they shouldn't have continued to be making this extraction shooter game. That doesn't mean that I am predicting it will do bad still. I don't know. I will solidify my opinion by the time the beta comes out and we have more information.
Sure.
Right now, it's still about 50-50 for me.
Okay.
They told us some rumors, actually, there may be some PvE things added. There is going to be some end game stuff.
Yeah, they did mention
there's going to be more contract things going on, more end game stuff. And I could totally see adding some more PvE stuff also. So so you really can use the excuse right now. It's just alpha, because it's very, very, even they didn't even give us all the PvP stuff. There's lots of maps missing. There's not all the runners. They
did mention it. They did mention that there was a really cool map coming out that was going to blow us away, but it won't be coming out until later after the game launches. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's on the PvP side. But even aside from that, there's, like you said, there's going to be a training thing. There is going to be that testing shooting range thing.
They said they were considering it, Ziegler said, but I'm sure that means yes, they're gonna.
Yeah, because they're not. Usually, you're not going to say something like that. Right.
It just makes sense. But I mean, since Bungie is leaning toward a more general, not as hardcore extraction shooter, it just made sense for me to have that element of the game where people could practice and get better. All.
Yeah. Now, the thing that seems a little contradictory, and I'm leaning more on the side of they should try to get more mass appeal. But the thing, kind of what Taja was saying and what you were saying about two different points, I'll tell you more in a second why, but I felt like I watched that Shroud video. He was a little contradictory on some things he said, and I'll tell you in a second. But it is an interesting point especially when you have a game that's this niche to start with, right? Extraction shooters are already a niche market.
Very true.
And so is it better to keep it super niche and hardcore and have like weapons that you don't know their value, so you have to learn everything? Or is it better to try to appeal more to the mass market? Well, I think the answer to that is more who's going to keep playing in the long run, right?
Yep.
Either way, we're probably gonna have a small amount of people, because an extraction shooter, no matter how wide they try to make it, not everyone's gonna love it. But if they keep it really just for the hardcore players, then what you're going to see is less of a drop off from the original purchases, because it's mostly just the hardcore players that purchased it,
right? And
then they're going to be the ones that stay. If they make it more wide appealing or whatever, then maybe well, I'm saying it weird, but basically, it really just it's hard to know. You can run theories and analytics on what's better, but just my general thought is it's probably better to make it more appealing. Here's where Shroud contradicted himself, because he said what keeps those people keep playing the game is having to learn the weapons and not seeing the values when they first drop and stuff. But he said, a couple sentences after that, though, he said, but most people would prefer to have the values and have it be more open-ended. Well, if he's even admitting most people would like that, then isn't it probably smart to go with what most people would like? you know,
We're trying to sell games here.
Yeah, trying to sell games. So I think it's good to at least try to go for the mass market. They'll get more initial sales. I know this sounds crappy. Maybe it'll still just be the hardcore players that stick on the tail end, but at least they'll get people considering it more if they go more mass appeal. So I think they should go mass appeal. I think like Stroud's thing was kind of like whatever. It's like, it's such a unique argument. It's probably better, in my opinion, to go more mass appeal. And if we're going to be adding more PvE things in, that's again going towards more mass appeal. And you even wanted that. So I think you probably agree going towards more mass appeal is the better way also, right?
I just know our community. I think maybe 10% of the whole Guarding Downcast community wants to even mess with this game. I've seen some people like just can't wait. And there's some people are like pass. Because they're PvE players.
But that's where we have to back up again. That should not be a surprise.
Yeah.
Bungie had specific wording that said,
I know, I'm not piling on.
Official wording. Yeah. They said, if you are a PvE player in Destiny, this game may not be for you. They actually said that. This game may not be for you.
Terrible.
And even if you're a Destiny PvP player, the wording that they said was, we hope you'll like it. They didn't say, we know you'll like it. They said, we hope you'll like it. So Bungie has said from day one, we have to remember this. People in our community, Marathon may not be for us.
Mark
probably isn't for majority
Mark
of us.
My words, Kingsley. Mark my words. I know they're trying to go after a different audience, but let's get real here. I think 75% of their player base are going to be Destiny players. Because we know that Destiny feel, we know that gun feel, we love it, we're addicted to that gun feel. And if we can get that in a new looking game with all these vibrant colors, then we're probably going to at least try it. And that means we're going to at least maybe drop $40 on it. Whereas these other players, they've been playing these extraction shooters for years. They got whole communities built up around these games. And I don't know if I remember when Doc played Destiny and people were roasting him in chat because he was playing Destiny. This is what I worry about with these other big extraction shooters, players and content creators out there. I don't think they're going to show up, man. I don't think they're going to show up.
But the Destiny players shouldn't show up either if it's not a game for you.
Well, then we're done. It's sunk. Okay. If that's the case, then there's no hope for this game.
No, I disagree that no one else is not going to buy it though.
Oh, somebody, 25% maybe of the audience, but think about it. Destiny content creators all got codes to play this game. That can't be a coincidence. These are all PvP players typically. I've even seen some.
It's how they're seeding things, because who else are they going to reach out to that would?
That goes to my point, though. Why? I'm sorry. I know I'm repeating myself, but why make a game?
They shouldn't have made this game.
Yeah. Why make a game that doesn't appeal to your player base, your fans?
Oh, no. Well, you have to get past that because remember, in the past, Bungie had other games that were different from their other games. Yeah. Like if you look at their games in the 90s and the early 2000s, there was a lot of games that were flops. There was a lot of games that were really good. Right. And then they make a totally different game that was totally different from their other games. So you're thinking too much like the next game. You just want it to be that way. But if you get off of your bias, developers should be making totally different games all the time to get more market.
Well, where I came from on this, and keep your points, keep your notes. Where I came from this whole idea was, if this happened, I would probably invest time in the game like I do in Destiny. What would make me want to spend time and invest time in Marathon? And it would have to be where I can build up my gear and get better and practice and learn all the characters before jumping into the fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And again, we shouldn't care. We should be happy for other people that want to play this game, but most of the Destiny players, when Bungie even said it's probably not for the PvE players and they hope the PvP players will like it.
That's me. I'm the PvP guy.
Yeah, but they hope, and you have to know that it's a different game. So don't go into it and complain after the fact when we've told you a million times it's an extraction shooter, and then you don't like it. We're like, we told you it's an extraction shooter. We knew that already.
Then I would go, I told you you should have stuck to your guns and made a Crucible game. But Sony canceled it. They had a PvP only game that was Destiny based or around Destiny. That I think Noseworthy and was it Noseworthy and Luke Smith were making? I don't know.
Well, they also had supposedly another maybe Destiny game too, and that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
and
man.
Also, it's coming around again. I know my point. More people will be getting on board within the next year, so they should have been making a Destiny 3.
I'm with you, man.
More and more people are starting to agree with me.
I don't argue that fact.
Yeah. Well, you used to say that Destiny 2 can be a Destiny 3, but no, there's reasons why you have to have a Destiny 3 to make things better, especially because the engine and everything. But
Anything else? Anything else in your notes?
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
I still have more.
Continue. I want to hear it.
So many points to the wall.
Sorry, man.
Let me look at
you should know. You're going to find that out. That's what I do. Is I throw a lot of shit up against the wall. Just things I've been thinking about during the day. You know.
Yeah, and you want them to all relate, but I think they're kind of they don't all relate with each other, but because they're separate. Some of them are separate points. Like will it affect Destiny? Maybe. Does it have to? No, it doesn't have to. Like it can do good or bad, and it doesn't have to affect Destiny, but it could. Okay, let me look through this.
And keep in mind, Firewalk Studios only made one game, so keep that in mind as well. Even though Firewalk was disbanded.
Part of the franchise, are they not owned by anyone though?
No, I think Firewalk was a independent studio. I think made for making Concord. I think it was one of their homegrown studios.
No, I thought you meant. I thought you were talking about the Titanfall thing.
No, I was talking about Firewalk, who made Concord. But I think there was a one franchise studio. So keep that in mind too. They didn't have a popular Destiny game going at the same time. So I see your point there. Okay.
Yeah. So the dwindling numbers on Alpha, that does not mean anything to me right now. Now, if it happens again on the betas, the open betas, then I will also potentially predict that the game won't sell well. I think either way, I'm predicting the game will sell well, but it'll have a pretty big drop off. So it won't do bad, but it won't do good. It'll just kind of be it'll make enough money that they'll keep it going for a year or two at least. People will have their opinions. Oh, it did horrible because it didn't sell so many, but no one really knows what the studio wants out of it. Unless they tell us, right? So we can't really know. But as long as the game doesn't shut off within the first year, then you can't say it was a total failure. And unless we see the game shut off in the first year, or they do something that's very dramatic, like Destiny is being canceled now, and they don't give us any reason of. Let's say like Destiny numbers are up, for Edge of Fate or whatever, and they don't drop down to the same levels that we've had this last year, and then Destiny gets canceled because Marathon didn't sell a lot, then even I would maybe speculate that Destiny was canceled for that reason. But I think more likely they can be independent reasons for each other. So I'm going to see what the beta holds on the dwindling numbers thing, because I think the biggest thing when I was listening to Astacross and some other streamers, the main reason why I joined was two-part. A, there's just not tons of people to play with in the alpha, and so you can't always get your crew together. But also B, not everything's here yet, even on the PvP side, and so there wasn't really that many things to grind yet.
And they're going to clean it. They're going to clean the exterior areas up. Ziegler said that. So I realize it's an alpha. It's a rough form, but I remember from the Bungie, the Destiny 1 alpha, it didn't look much different from the beta. Just saying. It just didn't look much different. So I don't know how much they can do in this small amount of time, but they did say they were going to clean it up. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah, you can do a lot, because also the alpha, there were some rumors it was a 6-month-old build, but that wasn't true. But we found out it was about a 2-month-old build. So what we saw in the alpha was actually 2 months worse than what we have today in their behind-the-scenes development. And then there's still another 5 months on top of that before the final release comes out. So we have a good 7-8 months, depending on some people's opinion on what can be tightened up. Now, you're not going to be seeing all new systems, but you can still do a fair amount in 5, 6, 7 months, because the alpha is 2 months behind. So
today's May 1st. It's 4 months away, Kingsley. Yeah. It's 4 months.
Yeah, and then plus the 2 months, because the alpha is behind by 2 months. So what we're playing in the alpha is actually not what's really.
Yeah. Gotcha. Follow you. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So those are all the things. I'm not so worried right now. I don't think it's going to affect Destiny.
Yep.
And also, people need to remember in the community, don't play this game just because you play Destiny 2. Really make sure you like an extraction shooter before you buy it. If you buy it and you hate it, I kind of say you're at fault for buying
On
it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my other just end point is they shouldn't have ever made this game in the first place. But that's I always go with the simplest answer. I don't go with like they shouldn't have made it because Destiny this or that. Like they just shouldn't have made it.
Hey, come on, guys. I was gonna throw shit. I was gonna have some highfalutin idea. It's been a while. Good. It's been a while, right? It's been a while since I've come up with some really crazy shit out there, but I was due. Anyway, let's bring in our question of the week into this conversation because our question of the week was, did Bungie make a mistake releasing Marathon in September against Borderlands 4? And of course, 24 hours later, something happened that I've never, ever seen happen. Randy Pitchford tweets out that they're moving the game up 2 weeks to the 12th of September.
It has happened before. It is rare.
I've never heard that happen. I promise. It's always the other way.
Well, it's probably games you don't care about, but
okay.
I promise. I read an article. I can find it for you.
It's all right. It's all right.
Games do move up.
I believe you. I believe you. I'm not. I don't know enough about any of that to do, but I guarantee you. You don't think the head of PlayStation said, "Whoa, wait a minute here. We got to get Marathon successful." You don't think they went to Randy and said, "Hey, Randy, you need to move the game up, buddy." So I think there was because they're in the next Sony the Sony big, what is it called, the up next or what's next reveal thing they have where they're going to talk about even more stuff coming out. You don't think Randy said, "Well, you got to get us in one of your special events then if you're going to want me to move it up 2 weeks." I just wonder if there was a little bit of phone call there. I don't know. Randy be crazy enough to do it.
Borderlands and Marathon players would be the same players at all?
They're not, but the curiosity's there.
Not even close.
It's a looter shooter versus a game you get loot, and that enough creates curiosity. But even if it was totally different players,
not at all.
I still think it would. I still think it would cannibalize on that first opening week. I still think it would only hurt each studio for launching on the same exact day. Just crazy.
But there's always games that do that. There's nothing that can be perfect. And if it only cannibalize, so it would only cannibalize for a week then, in your opinion? Because some people could say it could cannibalize for 2 months. So where do you draw the line?
Well, that comes down to what is the hook that's going to keep people playing. Borderlands, I know, is going to have a hook. They're going to have a ton of loot and probably some new cool loot. I've heard they've smoothed out the pixelation. So the shaders, or the shader style that they have is going to be a little bit tighter, a little bit cleaned up, looking a little more modern. You don't think people are going to be?
Did you know a lot of people actually play 2 games at a time, even though you don't?
I know, but see, I always think about the guy who's working a 9 to 5, comes home and says, "Okay, what am I going to play tonight before I go to bed and do it all over again?" And that's me. I'm working my 9 to 5. I come home and I'm like, "Okay, I got 3 or 4 hours. What am I going to play for tonight?" And that's the way I think of it. I know there's people out there who maybe work from home and can play all day long for a couple hours at a time. I realize there's
even
all
at
kinds.
night, what they'll do is they'll play one game for 1 hour and then the other game for 1 hour, even if they have 2 hours total. Yeah.
See, I can't. It's hard for me to do that because I don't know if it's my condition or what. But once I get into a game, I need to get to a finishing point in the game and then feel good about going over and playing another game. I'm going to try Baldur's Gate 3 only because there's not a lot to do in Destiny. That's the only reason why I want to try Baldur's Gate 3 is because I know I'm not going to miss anything. There's not going to be any FOMO over here. And if there is, fine. I got my raid nights and stuff. I can run and do stuff. But anyway, I tell you what, we did do a poll. It was a yes or no poll. And it was almost dead even split. But we did have a few comments.
But also people voted before the date changed too.
Of course.
Yeah.
But there were some important comments in here, and Dimwee kind of exacerbates the point here. He says, "I don't think any month would have been smart this year with the insane titles that are dropping." SV6 Mad said, "Double-edged sword here, potentially different demographic and audience, but suspect people will argue if it doesn't perform well because of the competition from Borderlands 4. This has been conveyed. You repeat your point, Kingsley.
Yeah.
They would need to pick a lane, not be something for everybody. I get that. Dorath chimed in. He says, might be a smart move. Releasing it against Borderlands 4 guarantees it won't be released against GTA 6. That is a good point, Dorath. That is.
No one knows when that's coming out.
JD
It's rumored middle of October.
JD
right?
Kent, there's always bounties to do, brother. There's always, you got to get paid when you play.
Have you heard the rumor of GTA 6? It's rumored middle of October right now, but no one knows for sure. It could
Really?
even get pushed back still. Yeah.
You know, people get so excited about GTA 6. I'm definitely going to play it. I mean, come on. It's a juggernaut of a game, and I definitely want to jump in the online community. I want to see what they've changed since 5, but
even if there's stuff going on in Destiny.
And it's Florida, man. I'll probably get all kinds of references and go, they nailed that reference. The gator was in the pool while someone was wanting to swim laps.
Will you actually play it, even if there's stuff going on in Destiny?
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely going to play it.
So you can play 2 games at the same time.
I'll have a night where I'll stream it probably and just mess around and play around and do something. I'm trying to do that a little bit more, but it's such a juggernaut of a game. It's probably the only exception out there. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then they talk about the GTA, talking about mid-October, just highlighting any comments here. Deadpool and Merc, I feel no matter what month they released it would be tough. There are so many games coming out this year, but we would have to wait and see how it does. Jimmy Rayner said, one did poorly because they bricked your PC if you installed it. I hope Marathon 2025 doesn't do that. Let's see. Who else chimed in here? That was it. That was the majority of the comments. There were a lot of people back and forth on the argument of it, but I think we pretty much got the gist of it, that no, it's not going to be a scapegoat, but I just thought it was a bonehead move to release it on the same day. I'm talking for Sony here. Why would Sony have two major games released at the same day? That just doesn't make sense. Just from a visibility point of view. But anyway, but yeah, I wanted to bring in our question of the week, and I promise those in the Discord, thank you for chiming in. We had about 20, almost 30 people chime in this week as well. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Thank you so much, people. We always like lots of votes.
And I promise there's no marathon question of the week next week. I'll come up with something else. And if you want me to do something wacky, I'll do it. I'll do your favorite dessert. I will do it. We will have those kind of weeks. But all right, we got to get some questions from our community before we head out tonight, Kingsley. We'll do that right after this.